Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, Escape from Transylvania. The goddess next door and John Haynes must escape a horde of vampires on the hunt in this horror-filled Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Escape from Transylvania in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. I had a chance to take a look at Kanye West's interview at the TMZ studios, and after taking a look at that so-called interview, I have to wonder if it was an audition for Kanye West to portray America's all-new, all-different cream of wheat man. And the reason why I call Kanye West America's all-new, all-different cream of wheat man is because it looks like Kanye West is looking to become America's new mascot Muppet minstrel, because when I listen to the statements he makes, they clearly show me that he's out to be a buck dancing, bojangling, cream of wheat man, Muppet minstrel for white supremacy. Now, I was listening to Kanye West statements, and he starts out with this argument where he professes his support for Donald Trump, and he says his support for Donald Trump is based on him being a free thinker. And I listened to that argument as a free thinker myself, and it just doesn't wash. Because as someone who has studied the entertainment industry for over 25 years, I know that no one is a free thinker who is black in the entertainment industry, because most of these Negro entertainers are bought and paid for. And because they are bought and paid for, they are literally like Muppets, and all white supremacists do is put their hands up their rectum and then have them say what they want to say. And it's clear to me someone has this Kanye West like Kermit the Frog, where they have a hand up his rectum and they're literally making him say what they want to say, because in order to even get on a show like TMZ, everything that you have written is written for you and scripted for you to say, because that's how the entertainment industry works, because they really don't like surprises. So when a guy like Kanye West comes out here and professes support for Trump, it clearly shows me that he's in the pockets of someone in the entertainment industry, because in the entertainment industry, they really don't have a place for free thinkers. Free thinkers are loose cannons in the entertainment industry, and free thinkers get a release at the end of the day, and we never hear about them on any sort of mainstream media. So for him to be on a mainstream media platform, that shows me that this Kanye West is a tool of white supremacy, and he's saying exactly what the white supremacists want him to say. But because many Negroes got emotional about what he was saying about supporting Trump, they can't see the puppet masters behind the scenes controlling this Kanye West and manipulating him to say what they want him to say and to get them emotionally riled up. And what your Kanye West was doing as he was auditioning to be white supremacy's all new, all different cream of wheat man was he was doing his job in riling up most of these Negroes in the black community. Now, after making his profession in support for Trump and saying he's a free thinker, we had your Kanye West decide he was going to make this statement saying that slavery was a choice. And he made that statement in the hopes of riling up the emotions of the Afro-American Negroes out here. And he did a very good job of that, because as I looked at social media, people were sitting there bickering and arguing back and forth with each other regarding how slavery was a choice and how slavery ended 400 years ago. And they didn't understand they were being manipulated by these white supremacist puppet masters and the puppet Kanye West, the Shine. That's what they were doing, but nobody could sit down and have the critical thinking skills to understand what was going on here with this Kanye West. He was getting everyone all emotional and everybody caught up in their feelings, but they could not see how they were being manipulated by this Kanye West minstrel, who was just a hand puppet for the white liberal white supremacists in Hollywood. And him saying that slavery was a choice was a way to see if they could get an emotional reaction out of most of the black community. And did a very good job of this because most black people were not critical thinkers and saying to themselves, you know, this argument he's making is the same straw man argument that the pro-blacks make when they sit there and talk about the ongoing legacy of slavery. These pro-blacks out here, they'll come out with this argument saying that the ongoing legacy of slavery was leading to many of the problems that continue to go on in America. And it's the exact same thing as saying slavery was a choice. Now, what really makes this a completely illogical argument that your Kanye West is making is the fact that anyone who has studied African American history can literally refute this argument very easily. And what's really embarrassing about Kanye West making this statement is that here we have a college-educated black man making an ignorant statement like this. How can slavery be a choice when we have African chieftains selling slaves to from wars and battles, captured prisoners of war, to white people? How can slavery be a choice when these people were forced into these boats by slave masters who were carrying weapons? How can slavery be a choice when you have a whole group of people who are armed and carrying swords, carrying guns, carrying knives, and and you are completely defenseless to fight back? Now, when it comes down to a slave couldn't fight back because a slave did not have access to weapons. And that's why slavery wasn't a choice in most cases. Moreover, when we had the slave trade going on, we had different people from different tribes and different cultures, so there was no language to come together to allow people to communicate effectively with each other during, the Middle Passage and even in the early days of slavery. So when I listen to Kanye West's argument, it's completely ridiculous. And when I take a look at historical events like the Stonewall Rebellion and Nat Turner's Slave Rebellion, they show us that slavery wasn't a choice, because when people chose to try to fight back, what happened is we had these well-armed militias who had weapons who put down those rebellions. So that shows me that slavery wasn't a choice in America. It was something people were forced into because they did not have access to weapons, and there was also psychological warfare played on the minds of many slaves in those plantations, because when it came down to those slaves, a lot of what was keeping them on the plantation was the mindset that they learned on that plantation. That's why after seeing things like when you're seeing men being brutalized and beaten, those other men and other women didn't want to be brutalized and beaten. And when you're seeing people being raped and sexually assaulted, they were looking for ways to minimize that. And we had many slaves who decided they wanted to rebel. And guess what happened to a lot of those rebellions that were planned? They were undermined by people like the black pastor and like the black female. So it was hard for a lot of slaves to overcome slavery. So there was no way for them to try to call themselves making it a choice. It's hard to choose when other people have access to weapons, you have a lot of people who are psychologically broken, and you have a group of people who side and agree with the slave master in the slave quarters. So when I listen to Kanye West's ridiculous argument that slavery was a choice, it clearly shows me that your Kanye West clearly is completely clueless and completely ignorant regarding the whole history of slavery. Because if slavery was a choice, that people could make in the United States, do you think most people would have stayed on those plantations? No, they wouldn't have stayed on those plantations. Now, the people who decided to try to escape, oftentimes they had to go way into the woods. They had to go into native places where the Native Americans were, because a lot of slaves, they when they escaped, they had no place to go, and they didn't know the land. So a lot of them who did know where to go, they wound up entering areas of what is it, Indian territory, or they wound up making a journey all the way to Canada. But when it came down to many slaves, a lot of them did not have the mindset to think they could choose to escape. It was very few people who had that mindset to think about things that way, because they were being psychologically broken down in that environment of the plantation. Because in the plantation, many of the people had the mindset that was the slave master was supreme, because that's part of white supremacy, and they were afraid of reprisal, not only to them, but to members of their own families, because this slavery was about terrorizing people in order to get them to submit to doing the labor for white people. But you can't explain that to someone like your Kanye West, who is sitting there talking about how slavery was a choice. And the great irony of listening to this Kanye West talk about slavery was a choice is that we look at who Kanye West is married to. Now, your Kanye West is married to Kim Kardashian, a white female, and he's sleeping with the slave master's daughter, but he's going to talk about how slavery was a choice. And that's what's so completely hilarious about watching this whole Kanye West minstrel show, is that he's going to sit there and he's going to talk about how slavery was a choice while he's sleeping with the slave master and having biracial children with the slave master's daughter. So when I listen to him talk about slavery was a choice, I cannot take him seriously, because you can't say your slavery was a choice when you choose to work in the entertainment industry and be enslaved by those slave masters as they're all new, all different cream of wheat men, and you're married to the slave master's daughter. That completely invalidates your entire argument talking about slavery was a choice when you choose to be a slave to white supremacy. You choose to be the Kanye, the Shine puppet, and the all-new cream of wheat man for the your white slave masters in Hollywood, and then you sit there and talk about how you are a free thinker when it's clear to me you don't think about anything at all. You just say whatever your slave masters tell you to say. So when I listen to this Kanye West, I don't get emotional. I don't get riled up. I don't get into back and forth arguments, because I know everything coming out of Kanye West's mouth, all the crap that's coming out of his mouth, comes right out of a white supremacist line. Because he's basically a puppet for white supremacy, and his job is to stir up all the Negroes, get them emotional, get them riled up, get them going back and forth with each other, and not taking a critical look at black media. Because I look at him and I look at that Aunt Jemima Issa Rae, and it's clear to me that the entertainment industry wants to see how they can manipulate these Negroes, and all of these stunts are designed to see what type of emotional response they can get out of the Afro-American Negro. But the Afro-American Negro is too busy arguing over semantics to see the bigger picture regarding these dysfunctional puppets of white supremacy, like Issa Rae, America's new Aunt Jemima, and the all-new, all-different cream of wheat man, Kanye West. Because if they took a critical look at them, they would see that these stunts come up just basically to see what type of attention white supremacists can get out of the Negro. Now, I listened to this whole thing that Kanye West said, and I listened to this Issa Rae, and it really shows me, again, that many black people just don't have any critical thinking skills, because I sit there and I say to myself, everybody's talking about Kanye West, but nobody's looking at Kanye West's background. Now, I look at your Kanye West, and I say to myself, you know, if he really cared about black people, he would be sitting there talking about building businesses. He would be talking about building schools or improving schools through an educational program, things that are constructive to black people today. When he sits there and talks about slavery was a choice, he's sitting there, again, promoting the same weak argument that the pro-blacks have about the ongoing legacy of slavery, but not taking any constructive action to do anything that helps deal with things in the 21st century. Now, when it comes down to the 21st century, if I wanted to really hear something constructive from Kanye West, again, I would hear about him trying to create a scholarship to send a young person to college for music or for writing or for the arts. Now, that would be something constructive. Him creating a scholarship to help young black children get an education. Him talking about building a charter school for music and the arts. Him talking about creating black owned businesses and employing black people. That's something that would show me that Kanye West is serious about helping the black race move ahead. Him making some sort of statement about slavery was a choice shows me that he's not serious about making any sort of real serious change in the black community. And all he wants to do is fan the flames of controversy to get people talking about him and not doing anything of substance. When I look at your Kanye West, again, I see nothing more than another buck dancing, bojangling, step and fetch it minstrel who believes that the country is turning to the right, and because the country is turning to the right, what he wants to do is audition to be their new, all different cream of wheat men so that he can continue to get benefits from those same white supremacists who gave him his start in Hollywood and enabled him to move ahead. That's what he wants to do. He wants to audition for Donald Trump and the far right because he believes that the country is going in that direction. And because it's going in that direction, Mr. Step, all new, all different cream of wheat man, the next step and fetch it, what he wants to do is get in on the ground floor, and he's no different than that African chieftain who sold slaves to the white man, and he's no different than that black pastor who sold out the black community many years ago during slavery, and he's no different than the slaves who went out here and snitched for the slave master. Because for him to say slavery again was a choice when he chooses to be in with the white supremacists in Hollywood and married to the slave master's daughter shows me how much of a hypocrite he is, how much of a phony he is, and how full of crap your Kanye West truly is. I can't take Kanye West seriously because Kanye West is not someone who is making any serious efforts to improve the quality of life for black people. And black people, what we really need to do is close ranks on the all new, all different cream of wheat man, stop supporting this all new, all different cream of wheat man, and let him find out where he gets his bread buttered from overall. Because if he finds out where he gets his support really from, then he'll find out how little use white supremacy has for a cream of wheat man. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct titles like ISIS Escape from Transylvania, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.